is how can they pick up the pieces, and for how long do you think it might take these parts to recover?
It's anybody's guess, but the effects of climate change is still being felt. As you know, when you're dealing with climate issues, it takes a very long time. So what we need to do is to move people to areas where there's still vegetation and water. Those are the key ingredients of life. As we bring relief, simply flying in relief will not be enough. You need to have long-term solutions. We need to revegetate some areas. We need to move people to areas that are still fertile. We need to move people away from areas where there's conflict or armed bandits still ravaging the terrain. So it's going to take years to really get back to normalcy. But we don't have to suffer the extreme conditions we're seeing now. We can take some ameliorative steps.
Now, what about those countries that you're suggesting, for instance, that people should move into countries which are not experiencing famine or drought? What can be done to prevent these problems from getting into those parts as well?
People moving from one area to the other. Well, it's always a temporary measure because people have roots in some of these communities. You may find they've been there for generations. But there absolutely is no reason to leave somebody in a terrain that is bereft of water, of food, of all kinds of nutrition, and people are dying. So we need to consider that as a measure at this point.
Well, thanks again, Doctor, for talking to us on Network Africa. Dr. John Osonwa is a climate change expert. Well, moving on now, a new rebel group has been formed in South Sudan, headed by a disaffected South Sudanese Army general who quit his position last month. Lieutenant General Thomas Swaka resigned last month after he accused President Salva Kiir of turning the country's military into a tribal army. Swaka was one of the 3 top military officials who quit in February amid accusations of tribalism, nepotism, corruption and other abuses leveled against President Kiir's tribe. Swaka said in a statement on Monday that his new rebel group, to be known as the National Salvation Front, is convinced that to restore sanity and normalcy in the country, Kiir must vacate office. And the mayor of Johannesburg has paid a visit to the Nigerian Consulate-General as part of fence-mending efforts following the recent attacks on foreign nationals in South Africa. It was received by the old and new Consul-General as well as members of the Nigerian community. The mayor, who has been under fire for allegedly inciting violence against foreign nationals, said he was misquoted and appreciates Nigeria's relationship with his country. Our South Africa Bureau Chief Betty Dibea reports.
The meeting was mainly to talk about working better together, especially on issues that sometimes raise cause for concern.
And then we can have the private, it would be good if we have a private discussion, and then afterwards then put it to the media.
After a closed-door meeting, which the new Consul-General, Mr. Godwin Adama, described as frank, both sides addressed the wider meeting.
I believe that your coming here this morning will sow the kind of seed that will germinate into fruitful collaboration and being together in the continent of Africa that will become a hope for others to see.
It is not the intention of the city of Johannesburg to create any tensions from any country in the world. We want the city of Johannesburg, we want Nigerians to come and invest in this country. We want them to come and live in this city. And we also want equally to be able to, at any point in time, to come into your country, come and invest in Nigeria, come and live in Nigeria and become part and parcel of your society. But I expect any South African going to Nigeria, please respect the Nigerian laws in the city. How do you expect our law enforcement?
The mayor also tried to clear the air on allegations that he incited anti-foreigner violence in the city.
I was raising the issue of the high levels of criminality in the city of Johannesburg, compounded by undocumented the people in the city. For some reason, this whole matter went out that I'm inciting xenophobia. Johannesburg is open to that. That Johannesburg is part and parcel of their community. The only thing that we are calling for is the rule of law.
We are proposing that we form a committee for social cohesion.
To take up your request to set up a grouping that can engage, I'm accepting that responsibility.
Both sides of the meeting have promised to follow up on suggestions made, including a proposed ambassadorial briefing and a multinational cohesion committee to be constituted. Apart from the proposed ambassadorial briefings as well as a cohesion committee still in the works, the delegation or delegations from the federal government are expected here in the country as part of efforts to mend as well as strengthen the relationship between Nigeria and South Africa. From Nigeria's Consular-General in Johannesburg, Betty Dibia, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, back home, the Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, has sent a strong open letter to the acting president, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, asking him to tell the U.S. President Donald Trump that Nigeria will not accept the harassment of her citizens with valid multiple entry U.S. visas at U.S. airports. SERAP's open letter, signed by its executive director, Adetokunbo Mumuni, follows disclosure by the senior special assistant to the President on Foreign Affairs, Abike Dabiru Erewa, that in the last few weeks, the office has received a few cases of Nigerians with valid multiple entry U.S. visas being denied entry and sent back to Nigeria. SERAP says, quote, "The Nigerian government must stand up to Trump and defend Nigerians' internationally recognized right to freedom of movement, just as the Iraqi Prime Minister Haider al-Abadi did for his own citizens." End of quote. SERAP also explains that the Universal Declaration of Human Rights guarantees liberty of movement and provides in Article 13 that everyone has the right to freedom of movement and residence within the borders of each state. When Network Africa returns, Ghana celebrates 60 years since independence from Britain. Please join us again.